I think that there's different people in this world, and there's some people who take responsibility for not entertaining, but just making sure that people around them feel comfortable and that they have a good time and that they learn. And I think over the years, I've kind of just assumed that responsibility. I think having so many businesses and having to train up so many other people, young people, you kind of just take on that responsibility. And there's a few other of my friends that do it as well, but I'm not one that will sit back. Like I do like to, when I do go into a room, I do take over. It's one of my strengths, so I make sure that I use it accordingly. You can't always do it. You've got to be a little subdued sometimes. But when I go into a place, I mean, that night, obviously the people who went along were going along for a reason. They wanted to start their own business one day, or they're entrepreneurial and whatever. So they don't expect the people who've done this before to be the quiet, shy, reserved type. Like, what a waste of time that would be. So I just go in there and, just splurt out all the things I've done, and, having started 18 businesses and all that type of thing. And that night too, because I was just starting the pre-accelerator program that I was running for internationals, I was looking to see if there was anyone in that room that wouldn't mind joining, because I had a bit of room. I didn't get as many in as I would have liked. And so I really was hunting, 2 or 3 people to come in maybe a week or two late. And so hence, that's kind of what I do. So yeah, it's just something I do. I enjoy being that person in the room that, carries on. And actually, a better answer to this would be that I do believe that whenever anyone does go to an event like that, you've got to be memorable. You've got to be remarkable.
Yes.
Now, not remarkable in the sense that you've got to be the greatest person on the planet. Remarkable in that people will remember you, whether it's, a silly shirt that you're wearing, or, your hair's tied back, or funny glasses, or your humour, or, you've got to be memorable. And so I always say to people that, you got to make sure that people remember you. That was that guy with the blah, whatever.
Yeah. You gave us that little spiel. We were there, my brother and I, when you were saying that you told me nice beads.
Yes.
I remember.
I wasn't 100% sure whether it was you or your brother, so I did want to say I remember your beads.
Yeah, we would have accused you of racism just then. But
yeah.
do you attribute that trait, this taking responsibility, just wanting to be remarkable? Do you attribute that? Can you think back to any time where that became a philosophy in your life? Was it something given to you by someone in your family, or?
No, but I think that I do love presenting. Like, presenting is something that I enjoy, and I think that if you're going to be remembered by people, and if you're going to make an impression on people, that you need to be a little bit larger than life. And so yeah, it's kind of what I do. Just
kind of what I do. No, I like that a lot. It's so, do you think there's any way for others to develop this skill, this love of presenting?
Yeah.
Because you see, I love public speaking as well.
Yep.
And people think I'm a freak. People because it's the biggest fear in the world. More people are afraid of public speaking than they are of death, right?
Well, for me, I would rather speak to 2,000 people in a room than get a blood test. So if I have to go and get a blood test, I'm so afraid of needles, I've got to lie down. And I've often, the nurse taking my blood would often say, listen, do you want to lie down? I say, oh, could I? But public speaking, I don't even bother preparing. But I do think people can develop it, and it's practice. It's like everything in this world, practice. And that's what I say about entrepreneurship and starting businesses, that I love to see young people have a side hustle all the time. Sell something on eBay. Make toys out of wood or something. I don't know, whatever it is. But have a side hustle, because if you were going to run a marathon, you decided today that you're going to run a marathon, you're not going to rock up on the weekend and do the Melbourne Marathon.
Unless you're
going to have to train. Yeah.
Yes.
And you're going to train and you're going to practice. And entrepreneurship's the same. Public speaking's the same. If you want to be a great public speaker, you don't just decide I'm going to be one, and you are. You've got to practice. You've got to put yourself out there, and it takes effort. Now, most people are lazy and will not put in the effort. And so they're the ones that I don't normally bother with. But when I see, people like yourself and a few other people that we met that night, Karthik and a few of those guys, man, they had energy to burn. So let me at them, because I'll foster that energy in people. But if you don't show me that energy, if you don't show me that commitment, I'm not going to bother with you. But I will bother with you, if I do get some of that energy back. So I do thrive on other people's energy. And if there's more energy in there, that was a very particular, that was probably one of the best nights I've been to for a while. And I think it's because of the type of people that turned up. Not
Certainly.
so much the people that, not as much the people that presented, although they are terrific. But the people in that room that night, I don't know whether you noticed, they were brilliant.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah. It's really
Shout
good.
out to the Hacker Exchange for putting together such a good event. Yes.
Yep.
So this is what you're saying now, and I remember you've mentioned him by name. He, the great Gary Vaynerchuk, right?
Oh, love him.
Yeah. I didn't know who he was really until after I went to your pre-accelerator. But now it's like every single time I catch myself like kind of lazy, I hear him in my voice. It's like, you got to hustle every day.
Hustle.
Yeah. So to the people who just, okay, so you told them, okay, what you need is practice. Then you said what gets you to practice is this energy, right? This feeling. Yep. That's what lets people come alive in these facilities. What do you say to somebody who's just sitting down almost every day? They do work that to them is like, it doesn't get them energetic. Their life all around is a bit of a shade of gray. How can they get this kind of energy?
Well, you got to change and you got to do something different. So my story was that I never ever wanted to be an accountant, but so the only reason why I became an accountant was because I met this chick at uni who I really liked. Have I told you this story?
No, you haven't.
So I started doing a catering and hotel management degree, and I was really passionate about working in hotels because I loved going to hotels. But as I realised, people in hotels get paid crap, and you got to work night times and weekends. And man, that's not me. And the pay was terrible. So I met this chick who I really liked, and she was doing accounting. And she was older than me, and I never thought she'd go out with me. So what I did is that I just rocked up on the enrolment days for her degree, and I just enrolled in her subjects just so I can hang around her. And so I ended up doing so many extra subjects, I ended up with another degree. Now this chick's now my wife, and we got 2 kids. So I call it my first acquisition. But anyway, so I didn't want to get a job in accounting, but in those days, in 1990, the world was screwed. Like, it was terrible. I think our first home loan was like 17%. A home loan now is like 3.5%. And so if you got offered a job by KPMG, you took it. I didn't want it, but I just got offered it. And so off I went, and I freaking hated it. It was terrible. And so, going through those times, you just got to stick with it. And so I did stick with it, and I ended up moving to Pitcher Partners, which I really loved. Even though I still didn't like the accounting, I really loved it because you got to deal with owners of businesses. And that's what I can't stand about the Big Four. The work that you do is corporate. So you never deal with an owner. And the work that you do has no consequence. But when you're dealing with companies, the owners of companies, I learned a lot from them. There was one guy that used to hit me, like seriously used to hit me. I don't know how he got away with it back then, but he'd come up behind me and go, Saporito, bang, hit me on the head. Where's my accounts? I love the guy to this day. I still catch up with him. But I hated it. So I couldn't wait to start my own business. And I was miserable being an accountant. I was at my desk crying from boredom more than anything. And so one day I just said, mate, this is enough. And so I resigned. And at lunchtime, I went down and met with a recruitment agent. And she was horrible, terrible, like great looking bird, but terrible. And I thought, my God, if she can do it, I can do it. And so that's when I got together with a mate of mine over the weekend. We came up with a business plan, and I resigned on Monday. And 6 weeks later, we opened up a recruitment agency, which I had for 14 years. and was very
Yes.
successful.
The recruitment
So,
agency.
yeah. So